你也可以开始。
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to our first event and global webinar of the year 2024. IACATE, the International Association for Creative Arts and Education and Therapy, is the... please also mute yourselves. I think someone is unmuted and talking. Thank you. So, International Association for Creative Arts and Education and Therapy, a global organization dedicated to creating dialogue between East and West, between the entire globe. As you could see in our participants today, we are represented globally. And
好，那非常欢迎各位。我们今天呢是我们2024年的第一次的这么一次盛会，然后也是一次全球性的这样一种 webinar 的场合。然后这个是由国际创造性艺术表达和治疗协会所主办的。你也可以看到，我们今天的这个参与者也是来自于全球范围的。
My name is Phil Spicer. I'm the events chair. And in just a moment, I'll turn the screen over to Tony Chow, who will be facilitating the event.
然后呢，老师现在的是 Phil Spicer，他是现在这样一个webinar 的一个主席。然后之后呢，他会交给Tony 去主持。
I couldn't think of a more important topic to start the year off in terms of where we are as human beings in the world with all the conflicts and wars that are raging. To be able to present today the Buddhism Learning Center in Spain, Advancing Humanity, Peace, and East-West Dialogue. So without any further ado, I'll turn the screen to our founder of IACATE and executive chair, Tony Chow. Tony, please take it away.
那其实，在现在当今这样一个充满了冲突呀或者战争的环境当中，我们觉得今天这样一个主题不会更加的重要、更加的及时了，就是去呈现这样一种在东西方对话里面去呈现人性的和平的这一部分，去谈及这样一个在西班牙的佛教中心。那接下来是 Tony 的时间。
Thank you, Phil, for the introduction. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone, and my dear colleagues and my dear friends. Welcome to the first IACAT global webinar in 2024. Today, we are very honored to have 4 distinguished guests from Europe, from US, and China, come to our panel. They're going to talk about a big project in Spain. The objective of this project is a creation of the Great Buddha Center, which will be the first ecumenical Buddhist center in Europe and the only one of this kind in the world. This initiative is not just about Buddhism, it's about the holistic approach to humanity, peace, and East and West dialogue, integrating the transformative power of compassion, body, mind, spirit integration. So Mia is going to share the translation of the text in the chat box, so we don't have to use oral translation to save some time, okay? So we, on purpose, choose this topic to start the IACAT, the Global Dialogue Series in 2024. One of the main themes of IACAT for this year is to rebuild the trust and hope for the world. In today's turbulent world, marred by the regional conflicts, wars, and global health challenges, this project emerged as a beacon of hope through the fusion of artistic expression and educational enrichment. It transcends the border and nature and nurtures understanding and creating a space where diverse backgrounds come together to explore the profound teaching of Buddhism from a social and philosophical view more than religious or devotional. What I appreciate very much is a long-term dedicated work from Rick for these projects and his joint effort with his colleagues around the world to bridge the East and West with deep respect to the East to facilitate the human understandings and collaborations across the different regions and beliefs and stay inclusive and open-minded. So today's webinar will be recorded as the Phil just mentioned that will be archived in ICAT database for free access for our members. And the translator for today is Flower Xiong from China, and my colleagues from event committee, Phil, Joanna, Mia, as well as some of our ICAT board members. Vivian is here as well. They're also present. So great to see you all. Without further ado, I'm going to invite our 4 speakers to you. So Mr. Ricardo Guerrero, Dr. Abraham Feliz, Dr. Alex Ruz, and Dr. Hu Jun. Please say hello to the audience. Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Great. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Great. Thank you for joining our webinar. So first, let me introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ricardo Guerrero from Spain. Rick is the president and founder or co-founder of the Hispanic Association of Buddhism in 2012. He's a director of institutional and religious affairs in the Grand Buddha project of Lumbini Garden Foundation in Caceres, Spain. For the full bio introduction of Rick, please read it in both English and Chinese in the chat box. So I pass on the floor to you, Rick.
Okay, thank you very much, Yu. Well, first of all, thank you also, IACAIT, for inviting us to present this project. But I would like to underline that the main purpose of this webinar is not presenting our project, but using it as the background for what I consider much more important and interesting, which is building understanding bridge between East and West. Okay, so
Okay, I need to translate. Okay. 然后是我们今天的第一位讲者Ricardo，然后他是首先感谢ICAF 给了他这样一个机会，今天可以去来这样一个 webinar 去谈及他的项目，但是他觉得今天的这样一个主要的目的呢，并不是去呈报他的这样一个项目，而是用这个场合作为一种背景去呈现他觉得更加重要或者说更加有趣的这么样一个主题。他其实是想在东西之间搭建起这么一座桥梁。
Thank you. So, well, let's start saying Ni Men Hao. Hello, everybody. Bonjour. Ciao. Shalom. Hola in Spanish, everybody.
然后老师是给大家问好。
I would like to start by showing you a little video that can illustrate the whole Buddhist, the great Buddhist Buddha project in Cáceres, Spain.
然后首先呢，老师会给大家去呈现一个视频，里面就是介绍了我们说的这样一个佛教项目，是在西班牙举办的这么一个项目。
you can have a little idea of what we pretend to develop here in this region in Spain.
嗯哼，所以大家看这个视频可能会有一点点概念，就是在西班牙的凯塞雷斯这样一个区域，有这么一个项目，有这么一个学习中心，是一个什么样的概念？
Okay, now I'm going to start by answering some questions that we posed when we planned how to develop this webinar.
嗯哼，然后呢，接下来讲演者就会去回答一些当他去准备这样一个 webinar 的时候提出来的一些问题。
I suppose that one of the questions that you can post us is the motivation of building this center in Spain.
比如说，一个问题就是，当去创造这样一个项目的时候，是说，哎，那你们的这个动机是什么？去建造这么一个中心呢？
The Lumbini Garden Foundation was born from the experience of a group of people who noted the mutual ignorance of Easterners and Westerners, as well as the values that support their thinking and, by extension, their respective societies.
然后这样一个项目，它其实是来自于这样一个基金的一个想法。这个基金的一些创始人呢，他们会觉得在东西方之间的这样一种相互的理解和支持是非常重要的。
On our experience in Asia, we could realize that this concern about this cultural gap was shared also by some Asian people and Buddhist masters.
嗯哼，但是呢，就是从西方人的这种经验，会意识到说，在东西方文化之间是存在着这样一种差异的。西方人会有，那么东方的或者一些佛教的大师也会有。
So once that we agree on the need of a better knowledge and the mutual understanding, we tried to think what was common to the whole Asia, because Asia is a big continent with very, very different societies. But we could also realize that there is one common thing to all countries, which is the influence of Buddhism.
嗯哼。然后，甚至就是亚洲本身的话，它可能也会是一个有很多种不同社会形态的这么一个大洲。那去谈说这个，我们要更好的了解，然后促进这样一种互相的理解。那其中一些共同的元素是什么呢？那可能比如说在亚洲里面有一个共同的元素，就是这个佛教的影响。
So finally, what is behind the Great Buddha Project in Spain is taking from Asia, bringing to Europe, to the West, in Spain, the basis of the Buddhist thought.
嗯哼。所以我们其实是从东方里面去借鉴了这样一种共同的元素，这样一种佛教的思想，从亚洲引入到欧洲，引入到西方，引入到西班牙。
And why España? Why Spain? Well, we are in Europe, of course. We are in this corner of Europe. And Spain has a special position in the world due to its history, which makes it have a special relationship with America, Europe, and also Asia.
嗯哼。然后，那为什么是西班牙呢？我们知道说，西班牙是在欧洲的这么一角待着，但在西班牙，它其实是处在一个非常特别的这个位置，不管是从历史上面来说，还是从这个空间这样一种美洲、欧洲和亚洲之间的空间关系来说。
In the case of China, the relation between Spain and China began in the 16th century, just after the discovery of America. And it's a long history marked by important milestones that I'm going now to explain.
嗯哼，那如果是更具体的，我们去谈到中国、西班牙和中国的关系，那可能也是上个世纪的，就是基本上和美国比较同步的，做这种 中西之间的这种建交，会有一个很悠久的历史。
Those important milestones we can summarize in four. First
嗯
is the action of the missionaries.
嗯
The
哼
second is the importance of the Spanish-Chinese trade with the Manila Galleon, a big boat, which connected America, Asia, and Europe for centuries.
嗯哼。首先呢，就是这样一种共同的这样一种使命，是在中国人、西班牙人，或者欧洲人、美国人之间都共通的、共有的。
The third one is the use of Spanish silver coins in China that lasted until 1948 in some cases. And the fourth is the contacts with the Spanish in Cuba that big community of Chinese could maintain.
嗯哼，然后就是西班牙语呢，它可能是就是哪怕就是很多世界上面很多地区都在使用的，比如说西班牙，这是欧洲，或者是美洲，或者是比如说这种古巴，那古巴那个地方也是会有这种共产党执政的这么一个区域。
So now that we know why Spain, now I'm going to explain why Cáceres, the city of Cáceres. Cáceres is a small city, about 100,000 people population, just between Madrid and Lisbon in Portugal, middle way. And it is an ancient and World Heritage city.
嗯哼，然后呢，我们刚才是解释了为什么在西班牙开展这么一个项目，然后进一步呢，在西班牙，我们是在卡塞雷斯这样一个城市，它是位于西班牙的马德里和葡萄牙的里斯本之间的这么一个位置的城市。
Historically, Cáceres has hosted important communities of Christian people, Jewish people, and also Muslim people. Buddhism now arriving would be the fourth religion with presence in Cáceres.
嗯哼，那在卡萨雷斯的历史上面呢，其实它会有这样一种非常重要的社群。以前的社群包括了就是基督教的社群，然后犹太教的社群、穆斯林的社群。那现在呢，就是佛教成为第4个在卡萨雷斯的社群。
So we are speaking about a big, great Buddhist center with different areas of action. We are going to invite monks and religious representative from 15 temples, main temples from all Asia.
嗯哼。那现在我们营造的这样一个佛教中心呢，它其实就是不太一样，它可能从亚洲的所有的地区都会接受这样一种宗教的信佛教的人来访问的这么一个庙宇。
So the different areas, a part of religious, which is very clear, are going to be international cooperation in health, also in agriculture technology and some other, religious and cultural tourism, and of course, an academic aspect.
嗯哼，所以我们其实是在不同的这样一些比如说宗教、文化这个领域去进行一种全球化的合作。
So now I would like to invite my dear colleagues and friends, special friends, Dr. Abraham Velez and Dr. Alex, to please explain to you a little bit how is going to be the academic aspect of this Buddhist center. Please, Abraham, I can give you the word.
OK，然后接下来呢，我们是来到 Abraham，也是他的一位挚友，然后他可能来解释我们这样一个佛教中心，它不仅我们刚才说的是宗教和文化领域的国际合作，也是在学术领域开展了合作，他将继续来解释这一部分。
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good night, everybody, good evening. The learning center is, you said before, it says ecumenical, and the word ecumenical is tricky, but basically what it means is that it is not non-sectarian and is open to all expressions and traditions of Buddhism.
然后，大家都是早上或者下午或者是晚上好。然后我们接着来谈这样一个佛教的学习中心。我们说它是一个普世的，意思是它会欢迎或者是向各种佛教的不同的宗派的都去保持一种开放的态度、接纳的态度。
Now, the pedagogical approach combines the best of Western scholarship about Buddhism with traditional insiders' perspectives characteristic of Buddhist traditions. That's the idea, to combine these two, the external perspective with the internal perspective. So historical critical scholarship, as well as something that is lived from inside.
然后我们这样一种教学的模式呢，可能也是一种就是内外结合的，就是有一方面呢是从西方来的这样一些这种教学的专家，还有的就是它本身就是存在于这样一种传统佛教当中的内在的这样一部分，是一种内外结合两方面的这样一种教学的方式。
Now, the studies are basically divided into 5 main areas, and the 5 are equally important to grasp, to understand the nature of Buddhism and to bring Buddhism to the contemporary world. So I'm going to explain the 5 areas.
那整个的这个学习呢，是分成5个区域，这样5个区域我们认为是同等的重要，帮助我们能够去掌握佛教的一些精髓本质，并且把佛教带入我们当今的这样一个世界当中。
The first one is languages and literature. And here we envision the study of many different languages, especially those that contain a great collection of Buddhist texts. That means Pali, Sanskrit, Chinese, Tibetan. Of course, if possible, also Japanese and Korean, but the main 4 would be Pali, Sanskrit, Tibetan, and Chinese.
那首先的第一个部分，其实是关于语言和这种文献的这样一个部分。我们会预计说，其实佛教里面我们要去谈文本，佛教的佛经，那可能就会涉及到不同的语言，那就会有这样一种帕利语，然后有梵语，有中文，有藏语，可能也许以后会有日语或者是韩语，但是前面的这几个是比较基本的。
The second area would be related to the history of Buddhism and to the doctrines, the philosophical developments. So philosophy and history would be the second area.
然后第二部分呢，我们其实会讲佛教的这样一种历史，以及它的这种教义在哲学方面的一种发展的历史。
So here we will provide an introduction to early Buddhism, Abhidharma traditions, different schools such as Yogacara, Madhyamaka, and all contemporary expressions of Buddhist thought.
所以我们会介绍佛教思想里面的不同的这样一种教派和流派的这种教义。
The third area is related to the arts, society, and culture. And here we will introduce the different contributions that Buddhism has made to the arts, as well as contemporary societies, what culture they follow, and how that culture is somehow interrelated to Buddhist values and principles.
然后第3部分呢，其实是跟艺术、社会和文化相关的。我们会介绍不同的，比如说这样一种佛教对于艺术造成了什么样的结果、什么样的影响，以及在当代的社会文化当中，我们又跟随了什么样的文化，以及和社会文化如何去进行一些整合。
The fourth area has to do with Buddhist practices, specifically with different meditation methods that exist across Buddhist traditions.
然后第4个部分呢，其实是关于佛教的修行的部分，这一部分会介绍各种各样的冥想的方式。
So this will include training in Vipassana meditation, Chan meditation, mindfulness, and how mindfulness is being used in therapeutic contexts, in health-related fields. So in this part, we will also open a dialogue with science and the scientific study of meditation.
然后，关于这一部分的训练呢，其实会有，比如说这种冥想呀，有正念呀，有禅修呀。然后这种正念，它其实是会应用于这样一种治疗的、疗愈的这么一种情境当下。所以我们也会有跟这样一种，比如说正念，它之间有些什么样的科学研究之间开展一个对话。
And the fifth and last area is specifically about dialogue, and dialogue understood in a broad sense. And for instance, it will include training into different traditions, and it will combine teachers from more than one Buddhist tradition. For instance, a class about Theravada Mahayana dialogue, or a class about Buddhism, Christianity dialogue, or even Buddhism and science dialogue. So the main emphasis of this fifth area is communication and dialogue. And here, the idea of East and West dialogue fits very nicely.
然后第5个呢，其实是关于对话。这种对话是在一个更广的意义上面的一种对话。比如说，在这种训练当中，可能会来自于不同传统、不同教派的这样一些老师。这样一些导师，他们之间开展对话，然后呢，也有这种佛教和基督教之间的对话，佛教与科学之间的对话，就是这样一种沟通和交流，其实也正好切合我们今天的这种东西方文化对话的主题。
And just to conclude, also emphasize that the idea is not to teach Spanish-speaking people, but also to invite interested students from all over the world. And another important goal of the Buddhist Learning Center in Spain would be to teach Buddhists from other countries to Spanish, so that they can help out in spreading Buddhism in Spanish-speaking countries.
所以我们整个的这个理念呢，可能不只是说我们来到这个学习中心，我们是给你们去进行教学，它可能更加的是一种我们去邀请世界各地的人来到这样一种学习的中心，互相的去进行交流，甚至是把其他地区的其他国家的这种佛教带到这个中心，你们也可以把佛教带到传播，在西班牙里面去进行传播。让它也成为一个佛教的这么一个盛行的国家。
Thank you, Abraham. Thank you very much. Do you want to add anything?
No, I was going to say that now perhaps to address the challenges involved in teaching students from Asia and many different countries, perhaps Alex Ruiz Falquez would be the right person to continue. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Abraham. So I would like to introduce my other good friend and colleague, who is Dr. Alex Ruiz, who is the head of Pali Department of Shan State Buddhist University in Myanmar. Please, Alex, can you share with us your experience dealing with Asian students and how to proceed from the West to teaching in the East?
然后呢，我们其实里面会涉及到一个挑战，就是我们这种教学可能是面对了来自于亚洲的学生，以及来自于世界不同 地区国家的这种学生，我们怎么去开展教学的挑战。那下面的 Alex 老师呢，他其实简介可以大家在聊天框里面再去看，他其实是有这方面的一些教学的经验，我们可以请他来进一步分享。
You're mute, I think, Alex. We cannot listen to you.
Sorry, there was a microphone. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for having us here. So since Professor Abraham has already shared the outlines of the academic program, or at least our ideal, I would like to share with you some thoughts and considerations that stem from my experience in teaching and learning Buddhist studies in Southeast Asia.
然后呢，Alex 老师就是很谢谢刚才 Abraham 已经就是分享了我们这样一种学术的这样一个项目，它大概是一个什么样的框架。那我们接着下来呢，就是基于他在东南亚进行教学，就是教这个佛教的一些经验，他也来提供他的一些看法。
So the first point would be to reconsider what it means to have a program in Buddhist studies in Europe, because here we are talking about a bridge, and the bridge communicates two different points, and that means that people from one point can go to the other and vice versa. So it goes both ways. Therefore, I think one of the first challenges is to change the mindset that a center of Buddhist studies in Europe means European people teaching others what Buddhism is.
然后呢，第一个关于这个项目，我们说你要在欧洲去教佛教，那可能是意味着去搭建这么一个桥梁。桥梁是什么呢？桥梁是连接一个点和另一个点之间的这么一种连接，所以你可以从这个点到另外一个点，或者反向。所以我们要在欧洲去进行佛教的教学，那首先可能要转变思路。
Now, to give a little bit of perspective, my experience is the following. So I graduated in Cambridge University, and after my PhD graduation, I moved to Southeast Asia. I spent 2 years in Thailand, and later on I moved to the Shan State in Myanmar, in Burma, where I've been teaching since 2018. So the first 2 years of teaching went very well in my own mind, in my own opinion, but it was after 2 or 3 years that the English teacher in our program discovered through a series of tests that most students understood about 30% or maximum 50% of what teachers said in English.
然后呢，因为老师他是从自己的经验去讲他的这种想法，所以他先简单的去介绍一下他之前有什么样的背景。那他是在剑桥大学完成了这样一个佛教的相关的研究的博士学位，然后之后呢，他就来到东南亚开展教学。他去泰国待了2年，然后后来呢又去到缅甸。他当时教学呢是作为这种英语的教师去进行教学，就是他会知道说，其实他课堂上面的学生能吸收到他30%的内容，至多不超过50%的内容。
So here the first reaction of if we can call it the Western-minded person, such as myself or the English teacher, Patrick, was of a reaction of shock. And we said, the immediate reaction is, how could we improve the English level? So the problem was, the immediate problem at the beginning is, oh my God, we thought they understood, but they don't understand. So this is the problem. However, on a second thought, one realizes what the real problem is, or the real situation is, that for 2 years, no one complained.
好，那首先第一个反应就是，比如说老师他是作为英语的教师，或者说有这种西方思维的人，他的第一个反应就是很震惊啊，就是我以为我讲的他懂了，但是其实他并没有懂。那 我怎么办呢？可能立马的一个想法说，那我要改进英文，或者让他们的英文水平有提高。但是第二个想法就来了，就是他在那里待了2年，没有人抱怨呢。
So this, just to give an example of the types of challenges that we might encounter when we are trying to bring cultures together and work together in a way that fits all the expectations. Because it is true that the level of English or whatever the medium language is needs to be improved, but we also need to pay attention to other aspects of learning and teaching. And in this case, it is very obvious for anyone teaching in a monastery in Myanmar, for instance. It is very obvious that students are different than students in Europe, that students in the Middle East, that students in Africa or America. And in the case of students in Myanmar, they don't complain. So the teacher will not get certain types of information that we generally get or we got when we were trained in a different part of the world.
然后这个就是举了一个例子，说我们如果说要走到一起，这种不同的文化走到一起去进行教学，它会遇到一些什么样的挑战？那可能一方面呢是说，我们真的是中间需要用这种介质，这样一种英语的介质才能去进行沟通，然后去改善这个英语的水平。但是另外一方面呢，也是说我们这个教学其实是要考虑多方面，所有的方面在一起。那考虑到在缅甸教学，你所面对的这样一些学生，可能跟比如说欧洲的学生，或者说中东的学生，那可能是不一样的。比如说他们就不太愿意有这种抱怨的这种反馈，所以也可能就造成了老师从那里从这些学生那边得不到一个及时的反馈。
So of course, this again also goes both ways. Not only the teacher sometimes doesn't understand certain ways of communicating from the students, but the students also may misunderstand the teacher. For instance, in certain traditions, if the teacher doesn't insist that a certain work is compulsory, the students are not going to do it. Mm-hmm. Just by sheer recommendation, that's not going to work. So one has to give strong recommendations or duties.
当然，这种沟通不畅，其实也是双方面的。可能老师也会对于学生的某些表达的方式有一些误解。还有呢，就是刚才说的，学生可能对于老师的一些要求也不是特别的明白。比如说，举个例子，有一些东西是如果老师不说，这是强制的，这是必须的，那可能学生他就不做。
So then there is another way of teaching and learning that I have experienced that is called having a coffee. That means you meet your friend at the university when the class is over and you say, okay, let's have a tea or a coffee together. Then the conversation is quite different. It seems to be more genuine, more, I don't want to say honest, obviously in classroom is also honest, but that's where communication flows best in my experience.
但是呢，其实还有另外一种教和学的方式，我称之为喝一杯咖啡的教学方法。就比如说你在大学里面碰见了你一个朋友，然后就说，哎，我们一起去喝个茶吧，我们一起去喝个咖啡吧。就是在那样一个氛围当中，好像这种交流是变得更加的真诚。我不会把这种说是诚实，因为另外那种教学也会是诚实的，但是在这样一个氛围里面，感觉是更加真诚、更加流动的一种教学的方式。
Because by seeing the faces, I understand that mostly everyone got the point. The point, I think, is quite clear. We don't need to go into more details. My reflection would be that if we have the opportunity of creating a new center for the study of Buddhism, a new center from scratch, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to experiment to some extent. And instead of focusing on contents, we could also take into consideration the atmosphere and what the process of learning and teaching means. If it really needs to be an exchange, then probably the classical relations of authority of the classical 19th century university need to be modified. So that would be my point. It's obviously for reflection, then we can have a discussion here. but we could summarize it in this way. We could also focus on the learning and teaching atmosphere if we want to accommodate many different types of cultures. Thank you very much.
好，老师，讲演者刚才已经就是看到大家这种面部表情，觉得好像他之前说到的点大家都能够理解了，所以基本上他现在就是做一个总结，就是我们在这个教学的过程当中，可能不只是关注于教学的内容的本身，还有这个教学的氛围是什么样子，以及教和学它的这样一种过程会是什么样子呢？如果说这里面有更多的这种交流，有这种双向的这样一个沟通的话，那也许我们19世纪以来的这样一种非常权威的教师和学生之间的关系，也许我们可以进行一下反思，是不是会需要一些变化呢？那这就是一个总结，也希望后面得到大家的这种反馈或者是讨论。
Thank you very much, Dr. Alex, for sharing with us your experience, which I find very, very interesting if we want to overcome all the problems or obstacles we have when we try to put in relationship East and West. One of the questions that, sorry.
OK. 所以呢，刚才其实有谈及说，我们这样一个佛教的学习中心里面，如果想要容纳更多的这种文化的话，那可能这是一个非常有价值的这么一种体验。也谢谢 Alex 的一个分享。
Other of the questions which were posed when we planned this webinar. What was how do we look at East-West dialogue and collaboration, above all on the circumstances that we can see on media about geopolitical tensions between regions?
然后我们当时去准备这样一个 webinar，还有一个问题提出来是说，你怎么去看待东西方文化的这样一种对话或者是合作？特别是我们当今的这样一个世界环境里面，会有这种地理政治上面的这种紧张的态势呢
？At this regard, we must say that in our increasingly interconnected and diverse world, fostering understanding, cooperation, and peaceful coexistence between different communities, countries, cultures has become a primary concern.
但是呢，在我们现在这样一个当今世界，其实是越来越互相去连接一个多样化的这么一个世界，这种互相的了解、合作，这样一种和平的共存，其实是最首要我们需要考虑的部分。
Differences in beliefs, practices, and worldviews often lead to misunderstandings, mistrust, and the most tragic of all, violence. And now we can see in many conflicts all over the world, and most recently Israel and Gaza.
所以我们可以看到，如果是在不同的这样一种文化，这种不同的这种修行之间，他们如果会有互相的误解、互相的不信任，最可悲的就可能会导致这种暴力。这已经体现在世界不同地区的很多地区冲突里面，比如说最近的以色列的加沙的这样一个冲突。
So, as a consequence, we can say that the communication and the understanding must be considered the real basis for building peace, and this need has never been more imperative than now.
所以我们要知道说，这样一种互相的沟通、了解，真的是去建造和平的一个真实的基础。
The international community has come to recognize that cooperation between countries to prevent and resolve conflicts based on ethnic origin, culture, and religion is essential to maintain peace. And this is finally the reason of the Great Buddha Project, which promotes the Lumbini Garden Foundation.
所以，现在当今这样一个环境，国际社会也越来越认识到说，这样一种互相的合作，这样一种交流，彼此的理解，其实是我们去预防以及阻止这样一种冲突的有效的方式。那在这样不同的文化、伦理、宗教之间的这样一种合作，它的重要性也是我们今天去开展这样一个项目的一个初衷。
And the basis of this mutual understanding and knowledge is no more nor less than education. This is why we focus and we have given at the Great Buddha Project such an important position to education. We want to put our how to say little addition to this mutual understanding by giving our study center a central aspect in our project.
所以这样一种互相的了解，它里面多多少少呢也会关于是有这种教育的元素，这也是为什么我们这样一个项目把教育摆在一个非常重要的位置。
Well, and of course we are at the IAK8, the art view is also very, very important. We have to emphasize the importance of art as a vehicle for peace and knowledge.
然后，在这个部分呢，艺术也发挥了相当重要的作用。我们认为是艺术去承载了关于这样一种和平，关于这样一种信息的交流。
Art, in this particular case, art and artistic traditions have encapsulated Buddhist thought, making it accessible to viewers from all over the world.
其实这种关于艺术或者说艺术传统，它一直是包含在这样一种佛教的理念当中，它可以是世界各地的佛教，你都可以从中这种佛教的作品里面可以看到。
So we are going to give art and architecture and a special weight in at the Great Buddha Project. We are going to invite different countries, different temples, different people participating in our project. We are going to invite them to build in their architectural tradition.
所以关于艺术呢，其实里面也会涉及到建筑这么一个形式，所以我们也会邀请，比如说来自不同的国家、来自于不同的这样一种文化的人们，他们可以去营造，按照他们的结构的方式、风格去营造庙宇。
This is because paintings, sculptures, and other objects, temples, and also stupas have embodied the wisdom of the Buddha and other beings who accompany Buddhist philosophy for centuries. And maybe Western people coming in our Buddhist center will wonder the reason of such representations.
因为就是很多世纪以来，在这样一种建筑当中，或者说绘画，或者说雕塑当中，也会体现着这样一种佛教的一种哲学。这也是为什么一些西方人他们来到我们这个佛教的教学中心，会说，哎，为什么是这样一种呈现的方式呢？
So we are going to use art in the same way that it was used centuries, a long time ago, for educating people, not through academic media, but through the art. Images, sculptures, and so on are very, very useful. They are real tools for teaching the philosophy, for teaching the Buddha Dharma.
所以我们也会像很久很久以前就已经开始这么做的，我们也会在这个教学的过程当中使用艺术，而不只是那种学术的文本。然后比如说去使用一些意象、一些图片呢，它们真的是一些可以去传播佛教这种哲学理念的很有效的工具。
So now, after that, I would like to invite Dr. Yunho to give us a hand to explain this aspect. The importance of art in Buddhism and education.
所以现在我们就请吴教授来，给我们去分享这一部分，就是佛教，这样一种艺术教育相结合的形式。
Thank you, Ricardo, and thank you, Abraham, and thank you, Alex. It is a very exciting time for me to take part in this webinar. This is my first time to take part in the international dialogue on Buddhism, and especially related with art and education. I have been head of the art education department of my university, Hangzhou Normal University, for 20 years. And the predecessor of my department, or the founder of this department, was Li Shutong, the greatest Buddhist master of the discipline school of Buddhism in China at the beginning of this century, last century, 20th century. And I think he has already set up a very good example of how art education is well interwoven with Buddhism. I myself has been
OK， 不好意思，我要稍微翻译一下。然后胡教授呢，他是大家也可以在聊天框里面去看一下他的简历。然后他补充介绍的呢，就是他是在杭州师范大学。那这个系的原来最开始的创始人是李叔同，那他也是在20世纪初给我们提供了一个非常良好的这么一个范例，就是教育、艺术和佛教的一个结合。
谢谢。I think this is very important to relate Buddhism with art and its education. In April last year, 2023, I gave a lecture at North Texas University of USA. The topic was the subtractive creativity of art and its education. The idea of subtractive creativity was written in the 17th century by a Chinese monk and artist whose name was Shi Tao, and he was also a Rinzai school monk, which school of it is a school of Zen Buddhism, 禅宗的临济宗, and I have become a Rinzai follower 20 years ago, and I found this. This is the certificate of my Buddhist. I'm in line with this tradition. I'm the 53rd descendant of a generation descendant of Rinzai school, and I think this Zen Buddhism is critical to education and to art.
然后呢，胡教授他是去年4月的时候去了北德克萨斯州的大学去讲解他的这样一种关于绘画，这个绘画的流派其实是从那个石涛那边传过来的。那他石涛本身也是既是一个绘画的艺术家，也是一个和尚，所以这种然后胡教授本人他也是这样一种佛学院的毕业，所以说也是结合了艺术和佛教，沿着这样一个传统传承下来。
我不是佛学院毕业，但我是皈依了佛。I
佛教徒。
continue with that. I think the education should be more closely related with Buddhism, but this is not the case in China. It's a pity. And when I was a child, my education has already excluded Buddhism. And even now, in my teaching, I cannot talk about Buddhism in the official, in the openly. But behind my philosophy and behind my way of teaching, it is Buddhism. So I think Buddhism is related with art and education. I would like to discuss from 3 aspects. One is from East and West dialogue, and another is from philosophical point of view, and the third will from pedagogy. I will time for translation.
OK， 然后胡教授会觉得这样一个 本身的教育应该是和佛教是挨得更近一些，但是我们的现行的教育系统里面其实是把这一部分给抛开了，所以他的教学里面更多的是从他的这种教学的思想、教学的哲学的背后，其实是体现了这样一种佛教的一些理念。但是他觉得，其实佛教和这种艺术和教育应该是更多的有联系、相关联。他会从3个方面去讲这一部分，一个呢是从东西方的对话，一个是从这种哲学的方面，另外一个是从这样一种教育的教育法去谈。
It's very interesting that the Buddhist center in Spain is regarded as an introduction of things from Asia. But from a Chinese perspective, Buddhism respects the West. And we have a novel called The Journey to the West, which is about in the Tang Dynasty, Chinese go west to bring back authentic Buddhism. So Buddhism is for Chinese, is a West thinking. And so it's not very, I think Buddhism for Chinese represents our open-mindedness to the West and to the communication with the world. So I think this is a very important part of the tradition of Buddhism. It's an open-mindedness, and it's a dialogue between the East and West rather than something either not a kind of strict power structure, but it's a mutually interactive. So this is one point I think important for us to learn Buddhism. And another part is from a philosophical point of view. I think Buddhism
I think I need to translate.
Sorry.
Okay. 然后刚才说的第一点是东西方对话，其实当时去介绍这样一个在西班牙的佛教的教学中心，说它的最开始是要从亚洲去引入佛教，这个想法其实听起来就挺有趣的，因为我们中国人会觉得说，哎，这个佛教的思想可能来自于中国的西方，比如说我们那个小说《西游记》是师徒4人去往西方去取真经，会觉得这个真经是在中国偏西的，所以也许佛教对于中国人来说就是一种西方的思想，然后现在呢，好像要从东方把这个思想介绍到西方，所以这个就是关于这种，可能佛教对于中国人来说，我是要把自己的思想开放了，才能引入这么一个西方的思想，而这种思想开放就是佛教传统中非常重要的一部分，是开展对话去交流，而不是这种非此即彼。
And another important is in the philosophical field. In education, when in my childhood, my education does not include Buddhism, even traditional Chinese Taoism or Confucianism. What we learned was Marxism. It's from the West. So the problem with this kind of philosophy is that we believe there's something, there's always something. One thing is better than the other. One group of people is better than the other. So there should be struggle and things like that. But Buddhism is different. It's decolonization and anti-anthropocentrism. I think these are the two very important points Buddhism has given us. For the decolonization, it's just not the Western colonization of the East, of the Africa. It's not just that, but also including the human colonization of this world, of the plants, of the animals, of the insects. We are becoming a more and more monotonous world, which is a very sad issue. So Buddhism, it's an equality between all the living beings. This is very important. And that's also anti-anthropocentrism. So this is very important. All the beings are equal. And this is especially important in our area when we are facing the threat, the so-called threat of AI technology. We are afraid that human race will be taken over, and we are going to have war with the AI. But if we read Buddhism, the mercy of Buddha is not just for human, but also for those neither thoughtful nor thoughtless, which should be the AI of our day. So this is an equality between a human and AI. So that's a very important philosophy we need to learn to solve our problem. This is a very important. So philosophy, especially the Buddhist philosophy, should be introduced into our educational system, which is still not the case. And another is a pedagogical issue.
I need to translate. Sorry. 所以第二点呢，我们讲到这种哲学的思想，那其实我们现存的这种教育体系里面没有佛教，甚至可能没有传统的这种儒释儒道的这种教学，我们可能很多的这种教学的思想是来自于马克思列宁主义，那这个也是西方的呀，也是西方的哲学呀，甚至可能在这样的一个教学的背后会有这样一种信念说，哦，那西方的东西会比我们的这种要好，那就会存在这种强弱之间这样一种争斗的一种感觉，但是佛教反而不是这个样子，佛教它是强调平等，反对这种中心的这样一种系统，所以如果都是平等的，那可能不光是人的平等，还有就是我们人作为地球上面的生物，那么和其他的生物，比如说植物，比如动物、昆虫，那可能也是平等的，那我们就不会是一个完全只有人这么一个单调的令我们觉得悲伤的这样一个世界了，所以这样一种所有人都是一种平等的，我们反对这种中心化的另外一个延伸的可能是说，哎，我们现在就会考虑说，那 AI 的发展可能对于我们未来的人类是一种威胁，那也许人会被机器所取代，人会被 AI 所取代，那么在人类和 AI 之间就会爆发战争，那其实也是好像人和 AI 是不平等的，所以也许这种佛教所提倡的平等，不仅仅是限于人，也包括这种非生物的说我们可能觉得它没有灵魂的这么一种存在。
非想非想，非想非想，非有想非无想。
所以就是可能在人和 AI 之间也会存在的这样一种平等。那在佛教里面可能会有很多的这样一些哲学的思辨，会帮助我们能够去解决当今的问题。所以我们希望能够也许在教育里面去引入佛教的这一部分。
Okay, so Dr. Junho, after listening to you, I have also to mention one of the challenges we have to face regarding the Great Buddha Project in Spain, and it is also related with the religion. Spain, I will tell you, is a traditionally Christian Catholic country, and our relationship with religion has been quite complicated for centuries. So now, when people listen the word religion, they are quite suspicious. So one of the advantages of teaching Buddhism is that we can present it as a philosophy, not as a religion. Why? Because Christianity, you know, and also other theistic religions, they have a God, they have the Word, they have the Bible or other books, and we don't have. So, and also the Buddha is a master, he's not a God, he's not a prophet. And people, we realize that people is much less reluctant to learn about Buddhism than to other different religions. And in our teachings, in our lessons, classes, courses, we present the Buddhism as a philosophy, and people is much more available, we would say. And also we underlined which are the typical Buddhist values which are shared by most of people. We speak about suffering, and all human beings, they suffer. So all of us, we have the same experience. And we give the Buddha Dharma, which is a solution to that suffering. And all human beings, of course, want to find a solution to that suffering, which is a part of the human condition. And this is one of the challenges, but at the same time, we face the challenge, we have the solution. And this is also the Buddhist way. It is to make a diagnosis of the problem, then to find the treatment, then to apply the treatment to get the solution. And this is exactly what we are doing in the Great Buddha Project in Spain. To find the problems, the obstacles, to try to get the diagnosis in order to find a treatment and apply it. And well, I think that I don't know you or what do you think about the time? It is a 2:20. He 10 in Spain.
Let's first translate. Flora needs to translate your words.
OK， 好，然后呢，就是刚才Ricardo 就是听了胡教授的这一番发言，关于哲学的这一部分，他就很想去补充一些，因为就是我们去在西班牙建造这么一个佛教的教学中心，也会遇到一些挑战。就是西班牙它本身呢，就是这个传统上面，是一个天主教，然后是基督教的这么一个区域，那和宗教的这种关系就其实挺复杂的。那现在如果再去谈到宗教这么一个词，人们听到这个词就会觉得抱有一些怀疑的态度。那么去建造这样一个佛教的中心，其实可能是不把它作为一种宗教去谈论，而是作为一种哲学的思想去谈论。比如说他们那种天主教，他们会有神，会有上帝，然后会有圣经，但是佛教哪怕就是佛祖，他可能不是一个神，他是一个和尚。然后他也不是一个先知，那在这个部分，我们如果不是把它当一个神去拜，是宗教的这种信仰，而是去谈它的哲学的思想的话，其实人们是更少的抗拒，更多的能够去接受，这种佛教的一种价值观。比如佛教里面去谈人的痛苦，那每个人都会痛苦呀，我们对于痛苦有相同的体验，于是我们就可以去谈这部分。所以就是我们这个部分虽然它是一个挑战，但是同样我们把这个挑战可能转化为一种解决的办法，就是这也是佛教的思想，就是我们去看到有什么样的问题，有什么样的障碍，然后我们去诊断这个问题，然后试图去寻找一种治疗的方式，然后把这个治疗的方式应用下去，去解决这样一个问题。
So now, Laura, I would like to ask you, Joel, about the rest of the webinar. Is it time for questions and answers to give the word to our participants?
Yes, I love the way how you present and share your personal story, your thoughts, and also interact, conversation. I see there is already flow between West and East among the panelists, which I really enjoyed. So look at the time, and to be practical. I think we have something like 20 minutes, so we can extend for another 10 minutes. So I would like to ask Jun to finish your third point briefly, and then we leave some time for the audience to interact with you guys. Okay? Yeah.
Okay. As briefly as possible. I
不
think
好意思，胡老师，我还是要把他先说的一部分先翻一下，不好意思。然后就是Tony刚才有说，他已经感觉到我们有这种对话的这样一种流动的起来，就是在这个东西方文化之间的一种对话。然后我们应该今天的时间呢，就还有20分钟，但是看后面是不是可以，如果不够的话，再延长个10分钟。然后现在还是请胡教授先把他刚才提到的这个教育的第3点再先说完。
Okay, pedagogically, Buddha said we have 48,000 methods of teaching. I think one of the important method is that the way of teaching beyond language, beyond linguistics, and this is make Buddhism beyond philosophy. So this is the pedagogy I think we need to learn from Buddhism. And second is about creativity. Buddhism is not about preaching some regulation or things like that, but open our mind, give us freedom. I think I try to make it as briefly as possible. Thank you.
然后胡教授讲的这个第3点，就是关于这个佛教的一些教学的想法、教学法，他会觉得说，好像佛教里面会说，我们这种道、这种方式是不止48000种，所以我们的这种教学可能是超越了语言，去讲到这些佛教背后的一些思想、哲学的理念。然后另外一部分是关于这样一种创造性，就是佛教并不是说要把你规范的这样一种感觉，而相反，可能是让你去释放，变得更自由、更有创造力。谢谢。
Excellent. So now I would like to open a space for the the interactions with the audience. So if any one of our audience have a question, just raise your hand. And you can use the tool under the panel and to raise a hand. And then I will pick up you one by one, so you can ask questions and comment. And yeah, so I got the first one. So Hilda, you want to say something, please? Okay.
好，那
You to
接下来的
unmute
时间呢
yourself.
是和观众互动的时间。大家如果是有问题的话，可以用 Zoom 那个它的工具，就是举手，然后我们就是让大家可以有机会轮流去问问题，然后或者做评论。
Okay, Hilda, you need to unmute yourself. Unmute, please. Yeah.
First of all, I thank you for organizing this very exciting and interesting event. It feels a little bit strange for me to talk to Spanish men in English because I speak, my mother tongue is Spanish, but okay. There were some things, there were many things interesting, but some things that caught me were the experience of Dr. Alex is his name, the professor of Pali, yes? When he said that he and the English teacher realized that many of the students didn't understand them but didn't say anything. So I asked because sometimes as a teacher, I didn't understand you so much. So, but people said this to me, and other people said to me, you say in a easy way things that are not so easy to understand. So I have from both experiences, but what is interesting to explore, I think it's what the different people from different cultures, what are their expectations about, or what they understand about understanding the teacher. And I thought that probably the students you had at your center, maybe they have patience, and they know that what they don't understand today, they will understand in a year and again in another form. This is one, I think. Maybe I have to give Flora time to translate.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, it's okay because I have a notebook. 就是刚才Hilda 她就是有一个反馈是说去听 Alex 的这个分享就很有感触。因为首先他会说就是跟一个西班牙人讲英语会是一个很有趣的体验，因为他妈妈本身就是会讲一些西班牙语，但是也 OK 了。然后刚才 Alex 去分享他作为一个使用英语的这么一个教师的经验，他会觉得这个部分还挺重要的，因为就是他会遇到一些学生，就是他听不懂，但是他也不说。那 Hilda 他本身也是一个教师，他会觉得有时候他的学生就反映说，哎，你讲的那个方式好像是让我觉得不太容易去理解的，所以就是再去探索这一部分是很有趣的，就是来自于不同文化的不同的人，他们是关于教师这个角色有什么样的期待呢？有什么样的理解呢？所以在那个教学中心的老师们也许会需要有一些耐心，也许一开始这个你们也不知道，但是后面可能慢慢的就会去了解这一部分。
And just another thing more. I think that the issue of understanding and misunderstanding is very interesting. And for example, Jacques Lacan, the French psychoanalyst, he said that many things in our communication and in our existence are based on misunderstandings. This is one thing, and I also was reminded about Merleau-Ponty, the philosopher Merleau-Ponty, also a French philosopher, that in his last book, he wrote about also what we see and don't see. When we see something, there are many things that we don't see. So also what the students understood, they were aware that there are other things that they didn't understand. And last association was with Socrates, that he said, I only know that I don't know nothing. So this is connected with the experience of the students and expectations about understanding. And that's all. We could talk more about this.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
然后黑的老师他接着就补充了一下，就是关于刚才不是说了解，开始就是不了解，然后后面会了解。关于这个了解不了解的这么一个话题，还有一个例子就是拉康会说，我们的这种存在的沟通的，它本身就是基于误解之上的。还有的就是他是一个法国的这种哲学家以及精神分析师嘛，他会说我们去看到了一些东西。但是其实同时我们也没有看到很多东西，所以就是会有这种了解了。学生，你去教他们一些东西，他们也许会了解一些东西，并且觉察他们了解这些东西，但是同时也会存在着他们不了解的这样一个部分。以及苏格拉底他会说：“我唯一知道的事情就是我不知道。”
Thanks for the nice comment and feedback. So Abraham and Alex, do you have anything to add on, respond as a panelist?
I totally agree. I mean, it's a complicated matter. I think also some of the presentations also highlighted the point, like Professor Jun also very rightly say that Buddhism for the Chinese is a Western thing. So what East and West mean obviously is relative, and what we can see in certain events like today is that there is a continuity. So I think like being aware of that, and when we teach and learn together, and we're also aware of the shortcomings, and as Hilda was saying now, what understanding means is a kind of is a question mark. What do we mean when we want to teach something? Is it only about just transferring information, or are there values? I think that comment was totally on point. Actually, there was one more layer of complexity in what do they pay attention to. Sometimes they pay attention to the way you present things, the way you smile. I don't know. Like there are 1,000 things that different cultures. Even in one, we don't want to kind of reify one culture. It's not that all the students are the same. Even in that university, we had students from many different regions in Myanmar and many different regions in the world. So the combination of all of them in that situation was a kind of unique event that happened at that moment. You cannot generalize that specific context. So I think simply being aware of these small issues instead of trying to standardize teaching, which is it's a very strong tendency everywhere across the board, I think. And what people need in general, what I've seen also in my experience, I'm teaching everywhere. Like I'm also teaching in Israel online, teaching in the US, and doing things in the UK, everywhere. And what we generally like, we humans, I think, is human relationships. Like when the teacher is not just a figure of authority, but someone you can learn together with, not just from. This is important. And I think because we are also teaching Buddhism is very much about that. So yeah, that's just my comment. I totally agree. We could talk more about that, but we don't. Unfortunately, now we don't have more time. Thank you.
然后呢，Alex 也非常同意刚才 Hilda 分享的内容，而且就是之前就是胡教授说，这样一种佛教的思想对于中国人来说，可能是一种西方的哲学的思想，所以这种东 和西，它其实也是一种相对的一种概念。我们可能更加的是在这个东西方是一个连续体，我们是共同来学习，我们每个人其实都有自己的本身的不足之处。那也许我们交流的不只是信息，不只是知识，还有可能是不是还有其他的价值观呢？这种复杂的可能也体现在不同的这种层次上面，比如说这种教学的内容，甚至你怎么去展示这些内容的方式，甚至你展示的时候，你面上带的这种微笑的方式，可能都是一种传达，一种交流。而且还有就是这种文化，它可能真的是来自于不同的文化，有不同的呈现的方式，甚至就说刚才的那个缅甸大学里的学生。这些学生也来自于缅甸的不同的区域，那他们也会有各自不同的这种分支的文化，但是他们在那一个是一个独特的组合，我们没有办法把那一群独特的缅甸的学生，就是好像泛化、一般化、概括而论。所以每一次他去教学，他可能不只是在缅甸、东南亚教学，他也在以色列或者世界其他的地方去教学。他所营造的是这种人和人之间的关系，教师并不是这样一种权威的形象，我们是共同在一起学习，这是非常重要的一点，也是这个佛教的哲学思想里面非常重要的一点。
Great. So thank you, everyone. I see the time is the ending, so we have 5 minutes, and I would like to ask our speakers and also audience, do you have any burning comment? And we'll give you another chance to communicate and to share.
那还有没有人想要提问的？还有5分钟的时间。
Okay. Oh yeah, Abraham. Yes.
Yes, I would like to clarify that of course, the Buddhist Learning Center presupposes Buddhist values and Buddhist virtues. So all the subjects that I discussed before presuppose the existence of those values, and I completely agree with Professor Hu and what Alex said. Number one, that you need open-mindedness and some degree of intellectual humility. Otherwise, you cannot learn not just about others, but more importantly, from others. So this idea of learning from others, not simply learning about others, I think is a very important, and I agree with Alex, and also the idea of intellectual humility and open-mindedness. So as the background or underlying mental attitudes necessary for effective learning. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
好，然后 Abraham 他也去补充了一下，想说一下刚才在介绍这个学习中心的一些课程的时候，的确会涉及到一些价值观，但是就是最重要的也是这种打开你的思维，去彼此能够互相的去学习，这个是作为一个背景，作为一个基础的态度，然后我们才可以有这样一种有效的学习。
Okay, I see Philip and Ricky, both of you raise a hand. Philip, you want to say something?
I think, Dr. Abraham, your comments bring us full circle back to the connection of Ayakate and the work that all of us here strive for in terms of the arts. The arts, too, when used in the service of humanity, uncovers human suffering and then gives us a bridge. So this center that you are creating, Dr. Ricardo, I look forward to further exploration, because I think at this point we have the foundation for part 2 and part 3 for a continued dialogue. And I truly hope this opens the door for us to move deeper into this relationship between art, science, religion, politics, through dialogue and through the great teachings of the Buddha and all of the teachings that you're striving for at your center. So this was my final comment. I'll give a word back to Ricardo, and then you can give the word back to Tony, who can close us out for the day. Thank you to our esteemed colleagues. Incredible project and incredible work that you are doing. Ricardo, please.
Thank you very much, Phil.
First,
Well,
translate.
possible.
First translate.
Sorry.
Oh, yes, translation.
Okay.
然后呢，就是其实 Abraham 他刚才的这样一个发言，也是画了一个完整的圈。我们又回到了说，我们要去用艺术的形式去发扬人文精神，去帮助人们修复他们的痛苦，去搭建这样一种桥梁。那我们今天开启了这样一扇门，接下来可能需要更多的，继续的去进行这个探索，更加的深化，通过这样一种艺术、科学、宗教、佛学之间的这样一种对话。那接下来就是也是对你们做了这样一个非常令人难以置信的项目的一个表示由衷的感激。
Thank you, Flora. I'm sorry. Well, I just wanted to point out that this Buddhist center in Spain is going also to be an opportunity for Buddhism, for the whole Buddhism. Why? Because, well, different traditions in Buddhism have developed independently one from each other in Asia. And so finally, we are going to gather all together in our center in Europe, far away from their origin places. That means that we are going to invite different traditions of Buddhism to discuss, to find a common way of practice, to find out which is common to all of them, and to offer this perspective to the rest of the world. So that also we will invite Buddhist monks to come in Europe to meet Western people, so that when they go back to their origin places, they also will have a better knowledge of how we think, how we behave, and how we can relate in a better way with each other.
然后，关于这样一个中心呢，其实它也是一个机会，我们可以就是对于整个的佛教都是一个机会。为什么这么说呢？因为我们这个佛教里面的不同的传统，它可能是在亚洲不同的区域各自的去进行发展，而这样一个中心，它是远离这样一个佛教的发源地，就是亚洲的这样一个区域，所以能够邀请不同的流派来到我们这样一个中心，于是他们有一个去进行讨论的机会，去研究说我们如果共同的有一些修行的方式，那会是什么呢？甚至向外向这个世界里面世界的其他的部分去介绍这样一种佛教的观念，并且来修行的这样一些亚洲的佛教徒们，他们可能会有机会在这里去遇见西方人，去了解说西方人他们是怎么思考的，他们是怎么行为的，怎么样接下来去进行互动，去建立关系呢？
All right. So thank you so much. What a wonderful panel. What a wonderful session of the dialogue. I'm very, very impressed. And thank you very much. And Ricardo and Abraham, Alex, and Jean for your wonderful contribution and share your knowledge, your mission and vision. And thank you for your contribution to our global community. And I hope this is just the start of our further dialogue and collaboration.
所以也谢谢各位今天讲演者的这样一种分享，谢谢你们的这样一种贡献，你们的这样一种使命和你们的这种对于前景的预见。那我们希望能够去营造这样一种共同的国际化的社区，希望今天是我们开启对话和继续进行合作的一个良好的开端。
And I would like also thank my team from ICAT, Philip and Joanna, Flora, Mia, and Ziyi, all our team for your hard work to make this happen. Thank you.
也谢谢团队的工作。
And of course, for all the participants who take your time to join this conversation, you are invited to join our future events and also the continuous dialogue in the future.
然后也谢谢各位花时间来参与，并且能够继续接下来参与我们未来举办的各种活动。
And now I would like to pass on to Joanna. from our event committee who will make the final announcement. Joanna, please.
Yeah, so I hope everyone got a great evening or afternoon or early morning for Phil from the States. Actually, our next event will be on the 29th of February, 8 p.m. Beijing time, 7 a.m. New York time, and 1 p.m. Amsterdam time. And the next topic will be psychotherapy and training in urban China, a transformation of mind and society. So, nowadays, China's rapid socio-economic development in the 21st century has been accompanied by a significant increase in popular participation in psychotherapy and training. And then this cultural phenomenon has profound implication not only just for individuals in China, but it's also for global perspective on mental health and education. So in this webinar, we'll bring together experts and thought leaders to exchange ideas and insight into the remarkable development. So just highlight of the panelists will be Dr. Ang, Dr. Emia Hempel, Dr. Ji Yang, and also Dr. Liu. These will be the 4 panelists from China as well as from Canada. Will be being our panelists for the next webinar. So stay tuned. And then also, I guess, on the chat box, you will see the link is there for the registration. So don't forget to save the date for us. Yeah.
那真的呢是介绍我们下一次的这样一个会议，是在2月29号。大家可以在聊天框里面去看到这样一个它的海报，就是中国城市心理治疗和培训。也谢谢，欢迎大家下次能够参加。
Okay, thank you everyone, and wish you a good start of the year, and be well, and stay tuned, stay in this community, and let's support each other. Thank you so much, and good evening, good day. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
John.
Bye.
Bye-bye.